Hello guys, today we are going to talk about relationships between populations. So you guys remember the word population. It's all of the organisms of the same kind in the same area or environment. So populations can increase or populations can decrease. Increase means to go up, and in this class we're going to use blue a lot of times to talk about something increasing, and we're going to use the color red to talk about something decreasing because it just makes sense to me. If a different color combination makes more sense to you, I would still kind of make it similar to my blue and red, maybe like green and red or something like that. But a population can increase if we have more coming in or more born than die. That might mean that they have a lot of food. And so there are plenty of babies coming along and no one's starving. Or it might mean that they don't have a lot of people eating them, which would be predators. But populations can also decrease or go down if there are more dying or leaving than are being born. So we're taking away more than we're adding, and so the population is going down and getting smaller. Maybe there's not enough food. Maybe there's some sort of disease. Maybe there are more predators than normal. Maybe the weather conditions are bad. The climate is changing. All of those things could cause the population to decrease. Today, though, we're going to focus on increases or decreases that could be caused by other populations. For example, predators or prey. And prey is the word that we use for food animals. So as I just mentioned, we have some keywords that we need to know. A predator and a prey. Prey is the species that gets eaten by another species. So if I'm talking about a rabbit as a prey animal, then the predator would have to be something like a wolf. The predator is something that eats the prey. That's one type of relationship, predator and prey. But we can also have relationships where two things both need or eat the same thing, and then they compete. So rabbits and wolves don't compete, the wolves eat the rabbit, and so the energy goes from the rabbit to the wolf. But if two things eat the same thing, like maybe the wolf eats the rabbit, but maybe also a bobcat eats the rabbit, then both of these predators of the rabbit are going to be competing with each other. So it's not really a relationship that you would see marked with an arrow in the food web, but you would be able to see that connection anyway because these two things, the wolf and the bobcat, are both competing over the same thing. They want the same thing. If there's an unlimited supply, it's not going to be a big deal. For example, if you had a bunch of fish living in an aquarium tank, they're probably not going to compete over water because water is very plentiful, it's everywhere. But they could compete over other things like oxygen if there's not enough oxygen, or if there's not enough food for everyone, then they might both suffer. And that's called competition. Similar to how you would call a competition in sports, a competition has a contest of strength between two folks. It doesn't necessarily mean that the wolf and the bobcat are actually right there together and they're fighting over the same rabbit. Even if they don't ever see each other, there are fewer rabbits for the wolves every time a bobcat catches one. So they're in a competition with each other. So predator and prey relationships can help us see kind of an interesting pattern here. So I want to look at this time right here at the beginning. This is a line graph, and it shows us how the population of hare, which are the prey animal, these are snowshoe hare, how they're changing over time. And we can see that the population is really going down and up, and it's going up and down and going all kinds of different ways. But it's never like, you might think if you just saw part of this graph that it is going to be game over for the snowshoe hare anytime, but it keeps going back up. And then when it gets really high, you might worry like, wow, they're going to take over the world. But they don't, they go back down. And part of the reason for that is because they have a predator. They have a predator called the lynx, the Canadian lynx, which is shown in this purple color here. And this is what the lynx looks like. It's a type of wild cat. It has very, very kind of freakily long legs. You'll have to look up some more pictures later. But every time the snowshoe hare starts to get really out of control in its population, like right now, there's going to be a lot of snowshoe hare for the lynx to catch. It's going to be a little bit easier for them to catch their food. So if you watch here, below, over time, as the snowshoe hare population is going up, it's getting easier and easier for the lynx to find their food. So the lynx population is starting to go up. But then once the lynx population, the predator, gets really high, now they're starting to eat more of the prey animals than there were really available. And so more of them are dying than are being born. And now the prey is going down. But once our prey gets really low, now the lynx can't find as much food. So now the lynx population is starting to go down. But when the lynx population is really low, now there aren't as many predators. So now more hare or prey start being born than die. And the population starts getting really big. But when it gets really big, again, what happens to the predators? The predators can find more food, so their population starts going up. So that's kind of that roller coaster that you keep seeing. Every time we get a lot of predators, then the prey kind of crashes and goes back down on this roller coaster. But every time we get a fewer number of predators, then the prey starts to go up again. And they really keep each other in balance. If we did not have the predator, the prey animal could just keep growing and growing and growing until they eat all of their food and then they die out completely, which would be terrible. So the predator animal helps keep them in balance. Something though that you might not immediately notice is that the numbers in this particular graph are kind of not staying constant every time. Instead of going up to the same point basically and then going back down like maybe a stable roller coaster, this is going, if we look at the lynx, it's going a little bit lower every time, which is a bad sign. The lynx started out around 60,000 for its first peak-ish, and it actually was a little higher. We cut off the graph a little bit. But then the next peak, it's lower than that. And then the next time it peaks, it looks like it's maybe around 40,000. And then the next time here, it looks like it's maybe around 30,000 or so. And then over here, it's even lower, maybe around 10,000 or something. Why might the population of lynx be going down over time as we move from before 1900 to 1935? If you're wondering about competition, that's a really smart idea. Hudson Bay Company is a fur trading company, and so they are humans who are also trying to hunt for snowshoe hare. And they may have also been hunting for the lynx to a certain degree as well. So the lynx are now having to compete with the humans for their prey, and so they're not able to get as much food, even in the really good times, as they used to. So again, in summary, today we learned about predators, we learned about prey, and we learned about competition. All of these relationships can affect population sizes. And a population can go up and down normally. It's not always a bad thing for the population to go up or down. It's pretty normal. But if we have a really uncontrolled population where there's no predator-prey balance, or when there's way too much competition, one population might go down so far that it ends up going extinct. And so we'll talk about over the next couple days some things that are important to keep a population and an ecosystem in balance so that everybody can survive. Have a great day!